Today on the podcast, you're going to hear a recording of a webinar I knew I needed to share with you. I'm sharing the 3 phases of campaign success. And what you'll learn is that most organizations skip to phase 2, stay in phase 2, never make it to phase 3. So as you prepare for the busiest fundraising time of year, I want you to think about how can I make sure that I get into phase 1, phase 2, the secret momentum booster, phase 2.5, and phase 3. So I will teach you how to build buzz during your campaign launch, maintain that momentum, and close strong for donor retention. Now, we recorded this live on Zoom, and we had so many great questions come in. Like I said, I couldn't keep it a secret. So please enjoy. And you're going to hear me mention the club. And if you're like, ooh, I want to know more, I'm curious, is this right for me? Is it too late to join? It's not too late to join, but the best thing you could do right now is book a call with me. So the show notes will have a link to my calendar. Book a call with me so we can make this the year that you're like most successful year yet. We hit that goal. Let's go. So as I said to those of you who are just kind of filing in, today we are going to interact. So I want you to use the chat. You will have some opportunity for some coaching if you want some help. Today we're here talking about the 3 phases of campaign success. Okay, so the 3 phases of campaign success. All right, Eileen from Positive Teams in San Diego. Cool. We train and place service and facility dogs. Amazing. Hang on, I'm going to make this chat bar bigger. Okay. Okay, Whitney says, I'm in Ann Arbor. We educate and empower leaders in sport to create a safer, more equitable, and diverse world. Wonderful. So have you been deep into the Olympics, Whitney, as much as I have? I feel like that's probably right up your alley. Amazing. All right. So we're going to dig in. But as I said, today is an interactive session. So please use the chat. Please ask questions. And I want to know the big thing that you're working on, the big thing that is a question, a problem, a challenge, or a goal that you're working on right now, or maybe looking in towards year end. Okay. So I have this lovely board behind me. We're going to talk about the 3 phases of campaign success. And what's really interesting is as I was creating this today, I was thinking about how most organizations start and stop in phase 2. Okay. Phase 2. They actually skip phase 1 and they blow past phase 3. So what I see again and again is organizations start in phase 2, do the campaign, and then start another campaign in phase 2. So if that's you, now today, you will have the awareness. I need to start in phase 1 and I need to make sure that I leave time for phase 3 because that's a really important retention piece. Okay. So let's dig in to today's training. Let me move a couple things. Awesome. All right. So phase 1 is all about the pregame. If you've ever gone tailgating, pregame tailgating, give me a 1 in the chat. Okay. If you've ever gone tailgating, I've gone tailgating this many times, but I know about it. I know what's up. Okay. Yes. So what happens when you're tailgating? What happens when you're pregaming? You are in anticipation of something for which is not currently happening, right? Ginger says, yes. Okay. Yeah. So if you've been tailgating before, maybe you are going to a football game. Maybe you're tailgating before a concert. I remember going to a drive-in movie once and there was almost like tailgating, like people hanging out before the actual movie started, right? So that's tailgating. Okay. So how can your organization, before you actually launch your campaign and say, give, story give, right? How can you actually start to pregame? What would that look like? And if you have any ideas, I want you to type them in the chat as I'm going through this training. Okay, so I'm going to share with you some ideas of what a pregame is. A pregame is building anticipation in advance of a thing, in advance of your campaign. So let's use some examples here. If you have a campaign coming up, I want to know the name of your campaign in the chat. Tell me what that is. Tell me what the goal is and when it starts. So while you're doing that, let's say you have a Giving Tuesday campaign coming up, okay? How are you priming your audience that that campaign is coming? How are you building anticipation and awareness that that is coming in advance of actually launching the thing? If you think about tailgating, that's exactly what happens. People are hanging out, they're catching up, they're saying, it's so good to see you. And I can't wait for so-and-so to play. Or what do you think is going to happen in the game, right? That's tailgating, right? So what are some ways that you can prime and seed your audience in advance of this campaign? Well, gratitude. Now is a good time to thank them for their support leading up. Now is a good time to show them social proof. Social proof is simply what we do works. Here is the proof of what we do. So if you have programming, you can show stats, testimonials, program participant stories. What we do works. Endorsements, okay? That's social proof. Teasing out something is coming. If you think about going on a trip to Hawaii, part of what makes that trip to Hawaii so special is the anticipation of going on that trip. Give me a 1 in the chat if you're with me. Yes, going to Hawaii is amazing, but think about it. It's all of the people that you talk to. So for example, this summer we went to Panama for a month. And in advance of taking that trip, it was like all the people who were like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Where are you staying? Are you going to the beach? What else is happening? It's the anticipation, and you're talking about it in advance. That's what happens in the pregame. When you don't do this, what it's like for your donors, your subscribers, your members, your followers is it's like you're just walking along and all of a sudden you're like, donate today. Ha, I'm in the bushes. I'm jumping out, right? Versus them expecting through this pregame that it's coming. Okay. If that is resonant with you, if you have questions about the pregame, put it in the chat. If you've never done a pregame strategy, let me know in the chat. Okay. More often than not, I see either no pregame or I see the tiniest pregame. Again, I'm going to go use the tailgating example. Think about the people who tailgate. They get there at like 8 o'clock in the morning if the game is at 6 p.m. It's wild. They're not getting there 5 minutes before the game and starting to tailgate. No, there's like grills, there's whole thing. And I want you to think about, I'm not going to pregame 1 day in advance of my fundraiser, of my campaign, of my launch. I'm going to start stretching that timeline out and actually doing that longer and start dripping out that anticipation in advance. Okay. Phase 1, pregame, most often skipped. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Tanya says, no, we haven't done a significant pregame effort. And that's really, really normal. I see that time and time again. Okay. Think about I've used Bombas before as an example. If they're dropping a new design, like let's say they have a holiday sock bundle they're dropping. Do they let you know on December 1st that the holiday sock bundle is here? No, they're seeding it out, building anticipation. They're maybe showing you that this is what it looks like, or this is who it's for, or look at this cute family wearing the matching socks, right? Building that buzz. Maybe there's a wait list, things like that. Then you've got phase 2. Phase 2 is where most organizations just hang out. They just call the whole campaign phase 2. Phase 2 is the actual launch. This is when you open doors, you kick it off, you send an email, you maybe are on the phone, you have a direct mail piece, you have social media posts, whatever it is kicked off, okay? And whatever syndication method that you use, whatever kind of multi-channel platforms you use. You kick it off with a lot of energy. Again, it's that sort of beginning of the game. You're super excited. There's a lot of energy around it. What most organizations aren't doing is these 2 things. They don't have a social street team. So it's the organization siloed off, and the organization is fundraising in this campaign. Okay. So the big distinction here is that I actually want you and your advocates, your champions, to use their channels as street teamers to fundraise alongside of with you. And if you've ever watched like a book launch or like any sort of new thing come out into the world, the book launch is what comes to mind to me. So if there's a thought leader publishing a new book, what will happen is like everybody on that launch day she'll have podcasters featured on her, guesting on podcasts. There'll be news articles written about it, things like that, like a movie premiere, same thing. So we'd see the movie, we'd see ads for the movie, we'd see people talking about the movie on social media, full court press, not just the movie talking about the movie. Yeah, you with me? Okay. So that's the first important thing is the social street team. The next important thing here is frictionless. Friction is you sent me an email. I'm interested. I want to donate, but crap, I'm on my phone and I clicked the button. I'm pinching in to zoom in. I could barely read your page. And then boom, I have this long form payment structure and you want me to get up and go enter in my credit card information. That is a friction-full experience. So we want to make sure that in the launch that is as frictionless as possible. That means that you have a donation tool that has lots of different payment methods. That means that you have everything sized for mobile. A lot of people are going to be on mobile. That means that you're meeting me where I am. If I'm on social, I'm seeing it there. If I'm on email, I'm seeing it there. Maybe you have SMS texting or things like that. That's on there too. Okay. That's the launch. Let's see. I'm going to check the chat. And as I'm going, just drop in questions in the group here. Okay. One of the things that occurs to me is that 2 pre-games I went to, we were much more about gathering and having fun, not particularly the game. Some people were there for the game. It seemed like in a way it was a way to gather people who didn't much care for the game itself. Yeah, and building community. Yes, but you were all there for a purpose. You gathered there on Saturday morning in advance of the game, and that's all it is. And I agree. And I think that's an important distinction is the pregame doesn't mean you're just saying, look how amazing we, the organization, are. It's just lightly seeding out something is coming. And you can actually tell them what that something is. Or you can say, stay tuned on Monday, the 9th, for a big announcement. So you can do that. You can tease it out that way, either way. Okay, so we've got phase 2, the launch. Phase, what I'm calling 2.5, because this is still part of launch phase. So every launch has a couple of very predictable ebbs and flows to it. Okay. So no matter how long your campaign is, your campaign may be a week long, a month long, or a couple months long. I see these same predictable phases. The first is at the gate. When you make that full big announcement, you've got your street team, you've got your advocates, it's frictionless. We see a big pop of donations in the beginning. If that's you, give me a 1 in the chat. It's like the day you announce the thing. It's like all the people who wanted to go to the movie first, all the people who wanted to buy tickets to their favorite performer. We buy them first. We go to the pre-sale, right? That's, yeah, you're super fans. And then I'm going to use a week long just as an example for this, but this is true of any container of time. There's this point in the middle where you're like, that was it. That's it. That was the pop. We're never going to meet our goal. I call this the messy middle. This is where we see a decrease in engagement. Okay. And you're like, well, I guess all the people who were going to give and share and support already did. You can give me a 1 in the chat if you're like, yes, I'm familiar with this. And internally, it just feels like stagnant. It feels like maybe a fail. It feels like it's just like kind of a bummer, right? So here's the thing. Here is the antidote to that feeling and to that occurrence, which is really, really predictable. And I call them momentum boosters. Okay. So imagine you're like just driving down the road and it's kind of an open road and you decide to like really hit the gas and your car goes like, you know what I'm talking about? Like kind of gun it, right? My son calls this when you hit the jackpot. He's like, hit the jackpot. And he hit his kind of, your hair kind of goes back. Okay. That's what we want to do to your campaign. And in order to hit the jackpot, to have a momentum booster, you need something to announce, something to inject an action in, something to get the people who are warm, they're reading your emails, they're seeing your social posts, they're getting your card, whatever, they haven't yet taken action. So what are some momentum boosters you can bake in to your year-end campaign? If you have ideas, drop them in right now. I want to hear them. So I will share some of my ideas, okay? And some that have worked for our clients. So one idea is you don't announce the donor match until you need it, right? So you can announce the donor match as your momentum booster. It could be on day 2, day 5, week 3 of your campaign. You get to decide, okay? So you could announce a donor match, okay? Another one would be starting to really go social for a day. So you could do a series of lives on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever your audience hangs out and do testimonials or do interviews or bring on program participants, something where it's like an all hands on deck kind of media day. You could make a big announcement. Maybe your ED wants to come on and make a big announcement. You could have a challenge. Now, this is a little bit more of an advanced technique, but let's say we've got a month-long fundraiser. Well, let's inject a mini campaign in there. Maybe it's 24 new donors in 24 hours, right? It's like a sub goal inside the goal. If you've ever done that, or give me a 1. If you're like, ooh, I want to try that, give me a 2. And you get to pick what the mini campaign is, okay? So it could be one of those. It could be some sort of limited time offer. The limited time offer could be any donations that come in this week will receive a hat, will receive a thing, will get a thing, right? You could have an offer. That offer could be a swag item. It could be something else. They could be a VIP invite to a chat, insiders group, a meetup online, something like that. Upgraded tickets to an event. Okay. So there's a lot of different ways you could add momentum boosters here. It could be a partnership announcement. Maybe you're bringing on a really awesome partner or sponsor. It could be that. Maybe you've got an amazing social street teamer that said yes, and that social street teamer is a big deal. This happened to one of my clients. They had a street teamer that had over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Momentum booster, go live with that person that day. You with me? Okay. So momentum booster is a surprise. That's the piece. Now, most organizations just stay in 2. And then they're like, it's over. And I decide that it's over based on time. So for example, Giving Tuesday's over, therefore my fundraiser is over. The campaign is over. No. And then we just stop. We kind of lay back because it's exhausting and tired. And then we pick it back up when it's another campaign time. Yeah? Sound right? So we're not doing that. Instead, we're going to do the victory lap. Okay? Think about a victory lap, right? You win a race, do a victory lap. But here's the distinction with the way that I'm teaching the victory lap is no matter if you raised $1, you still take a victory lap. And I will share why. One is it's a victory. If you raised $1, it's a victory. Somebody was generous enough to say, yes, I want to donate, right? It's a victory. So even if you didn't make your goal, let's say your goal is $50,000 and you're at $42,000 when the campaign's over, okay? Take the victory lap. So what is a victory lap? A victory lap is closing the story loop, okay? It's saying, this happened. We're at $42,000. Amazing. Here's what's next for us. With that $42,000, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Thanks to you, right? And then you say, it's not too late. You want to make a gift? Let's go. And you have a call to action. So you can take the victory lap, celebrate the success you've had, even if you didn't make the goal. So in my coaching program, the Purpose and Profit Club, we have an organization that just did their first monthly giving launch. Okay. So in 7 days, they brought in 53 new donors. Okay. What I said to them was take that victory lap. Okay. So it was a 7-day campaign. So on that Monday, I want you to close the loop. What happened? And here's the thing. Their goal was higher. I think they knocked it out of the park, and they do too, but their goal was higher. So it's like, you don't always have to take the victory lap on a soapbox with your gold medal saying, we did it. We're amazing. You get to be authentic. You get to be transparent. You get to be vulnerable. You get to be human. You don't have to sound like an ominous organization that just sounds professional all the time, right? It sounds so generic and buttoned up. So you get to say, thank you. Here's what happened. You stuck with us. We welcomed 53 new donors. We raised X amount of funds. We're not done yet. Here's what's next. And you paint the picture of what's in the future. Okay. And then with her, what I said to her was, I want you to send a note in that victory lap email. And I want you to say, maybe becoming a monthly donor wasn't right for you right now. You can make a one-time gift to this campaign here and have a call to action to make a one-time gift in the victory lap email. And she brought in a couple more $1,000s with that alone, right? And it would be so easy to say the campaign's done, splat, I want to rest. Now, I had somebody on my podcast who's an event expert, and he gave such great advice. And he said, he does basically all in-person events. So he's just like, that's his world, been doing it for 20 years. And he said, most often he sees these organizations, these are huge fundraising events. So much effort came in planning the event, putting on the event, doing the event. The knee-jerk reaction is, God, I just want to take that Monday off, right? I just want to take the week off, let my staff rest. I want to rest. We did it. amount. And he was like, that is the worst time to take off. He's like, that is the warmest, most engaged your audience is all year. Think about that. Because if they're on that event Saturday night, they're dancing, they're seeing people they haven't seen in 6 months or a year, they're more engaged with your mission, they're more clear on what it is you do right then and there than they will be for the next 364 days, potentially. And when you don't take that victory lap, when you don't close the story loop with them on Monday, pick up the phone, call them. Oh my God, it was so great to see you. Here's what we were able to raise. Here's what's next. You're missing that like sweetest honeymoon period. Okay. So this is a version of that. And I want to offer, just build it into standard practice, whatever our victory lap period is. So it might be a day if it's an online fundraiser. If it's an in-person gala, you may say, you know, we need the full week to follow up during this very highly engaged period. So you could decide like how long you and your team needs for that sweet spot period for the victory lap. But then decide it's the week after that we take off. It's the week after that we build in the rest. So it's not that I'm saying don't rest. It's that I'm saying stretch it out just a tiny bit more. Okay, it's like you got one more leg of the race that I want you to run. The race wasn't just this one solo launch, okay? Questions, drop them in the chat. Are you with me? Does this make sense? Yeah? Okay, so the goal of closing out the campaign, closing out the story loop, having that victory lap, regardless of what happened, is so that you can wrap it up by sharing outcomes. What was achieved? What wasn't? The story, the energy behind the message, maybe some surprise moments that happened. That would be kind of cool to see. Maybe you had some board members or some volunteers or a surprise message from a program participant. Share that, ask permission and share that, right? What were those kind of unexpected wins in it? Even if you don't meet your goal, it's littered full of wins, okay? All right. So what I wrote down here is phase 2, phase 2.5, and phase 3 require something important. They require strong stories. None of this will work well if your stories are sterile, generic, diluted. They sound like everyone else. If you're a pet rescue, I want it to sound like your pet rescue, your point of view, not the 10 other pet rescues in my area, okay? So strong stories, high frequency. None of this will be successful if your frequency is safe and cozy and forgettable. Okay. So this doesn't work if you're like, listen, we sent out 2 emails and I don't know what happened. Right. And we didn't hit our goal. I'm like, well, that is not enough emails. Okay. So I see in the chat, okay, what time period are you assigning to these phases and what frequency period? Here's the thing. These 3 phases could be used for any type of fundraiser. So sometimes our fundraisers are a week long. Sometimes they're longer, like a year end. So you're going to decide what that is. For Giving Tuesday, I would have your pregame a couple weeks in advance. I'd start seeding it, okay? And your launch and your momentum booster, I would have over the course of the week. You can stretch it out, okay? So it's going to depend on the actual campaign itself. But high frequency. I just hosted a webinar about fundraising success in an election year. And the big thing to take away is that it's going to take more repetition to get your audience's attention. So that means more outreach, more emails, more social posts, okay? Energy up, advocacy. So meaning that you have other people championing and advocating for your cause. They may be fundraising, they may be boosting visibility, but using what I teach, using the social street team method, so that there are other people alongside of you and not just you, the organization, fundraising. Yeah, you with me? And then these are the 2 core values that you need to have carrying in through year end: bravery and grit, because it requires bravery to tell stories more honestly. It requires bravery to tell stories that are more humanizing, more real, like 2 friends talking. And it also takes a lot of grit to get through the curves, the messy middles, the peaks and the valleys of a launch, okay? Grit is about that sort of long-term commitment to your goal. Grit is about resilience, that like, maybe your experience is different. Maybe you launch your fundraiser and right out of the gate, it feels pretty quiet. Grit is the courage to continue and continue strong, not continue in like a soft way, but like a full court press. Okay. That's grit. So in an election year, you can, December 31st of this year, blame your outcomes, your results on it and be like, well, crap, it was an election year. You know, at the time of today, we have no idea what's going to happen in the presidential election. But what I can tell you is it's going to be a very loud time online. And after election day, it will be louder. It's just going to be a wild November. Yeah. So you can decide, yeah, that sucks. And I don't know what we're going to do and shrug, or plan for it. Start a movement, get the support to stand out. You're at the perfect time right now to see it, right? It's like you see it coming. You have the forecast. This is happening. So what do we want to do in response to it to plan for it? So one thing I want you to do is start this process earlier. I don't want you to wait until mid-November to start year-end fundraising. Okay. You with me? All right. Yeah. I want you to start this process earlier. I want you to think about, who can I bring in my street team now to prep me for the next few months? Okay. So that it's not just you siloed off. Okay. So you're here because you're actively trying to solve a problem. Yeah. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. So I want you to tell me what problem you're trying to solve. Okay. Because when you already know how to swim, you don't sign up for swimming classes, right? So what problem are you trying to solve? Take a moment. I'm gonna have a sip of water. I want you to tell me in the chat. All right, let me go through this here. Okay, I see earlier, but I see we've started to collect feel-good moments from our therapy and facility dog volunteers to do pre-game for Giving Tuesday. Now is the time to do that. Exactly. Now is the time to collect those posts, right? To collect those testimonials, to ask for an interview, to get your street teamers on board, to plan an IG live with somebody, right? That now is exactly the time. Yeah. Okay. How to navigate year-end fundraising in an election year. Yeah, exactly. So the first thing I would say for that is, let's say your strategy for 2023 was what it was. Please don't replicate it. We have to build on top of it. Okay. So that's the first thing. Do not expect to replicate last year's strategy and get the same results, because we're dealing with a completely different time. Okay. So that's the first thing. So we need to ideate and add to it. The second thing we need to do is create a street team if you haven't already. I really, really want to urge you to do that, because that's the piece that ends the sort of, where is everybody? Engagement's so low, right? Think about this. If you have kids, did you go to Google to find your pediatrician, or did you ask another mom? I know what I did. I did two things. At that time, I didn't have a whole lot of mom friends with my first child. So I went to the local community Facebook group that was moms. And I was like, where do I go? Who do I see? And they were like, you got to go for so-and-so. Watch out for so-and-so. I don't like them, right? One trusted endorsement to another. That's the power of influencers. That's the power of having digital ambassadors. So that's a big thing. The other thing I would say is to increase your frequency. So whatever you're normally doing, I want you to take it to 11. So increasing your emails, increasing your social posts. If you do direct mail, give me a 1 in the chat if you do direct mail, okay? If you have a direct mail list, give me a 1 in the chat. And for those of you that do, add another piece. Direct mail is great. It's important. If you have it, great. Add more. So for example, you do 1 year-end fundraising letter, please add 2. You may also want to consider moving your timeline earlier, okay? So if you normally roll something out in early to mid-November, you don't want to roll that out earlier, and also think about what we want to do in late November and also into December. Okay. All right. Let me see here. Okay. Managing and balancing big gala event in October, year-end fundraising, 40th anniversary celebration. Yeah. Well, the good thing about that you have like multiple things going on, is that you can do distinct separate campaigns. And one campaign is going to appeal to one audience or a group of people that might not appeal to another. So that's actually a good way to scoop up different people. Okay. So the annual gala is going to get the gala folks. Year-end fundraising are going to get the folks who are used to that. That's their time to give. 40th anniversary celebration, that's something we want to celebrate all through next year, it looks like make that a theme. And that can be another theme messaging piece that goes out versus just lumping them all together. Okay. So I would picture like what I'm doing with my hands, peaks and valleys. So if you were going to roll out those 3 themes, Whitney, what I would do is go, when am I first talking about this? And then adding a little buffer time, and then this one and adding some buffer time, and then this one. Okay. All right. Andrea says, distinguishing a special campaign and supporting efforts from end of year campaign outreach. Yeah. So that's going to be similar to what I just said, is like, do you want to brand your special campaign? Is there a theme for your year-end campaign so that I, as a donor, I, as a follower, am clear the differences, right? Oh, this one's specifically talking about this, or this is specifically, I'm very clear on the goal. I'm very clear on the outcome. I'm very clear on the programming and how that's different from the other one, and that you're not talking about them all at the same time. So it's just like all mixed in together. I was picturing like a stew, like a crock pot. You're just lumping them all together. When you do that, they say a confused mind doesn't buy. So a confused mind doesn't donate either. So if it's like, should I become a monthly donor? Should I give to the year end? Should I buy a gala ticket? Should I go to the anniversary event? Forget it. I'm not doing any of them, right? So that's why I like kind of distinct pieces. Yeah, this is the work we do in the Purpose and Profit Club. Many of you have already gotten emails about it. It is open for enrollment. I'm going to go ahead and drop my booking link to book a one-on-one call with me in the chat. Okay. We're enrolling now, and I want to tell you a little bit about it. The first thing is, this is a small group of nonprofits, and I know every single one of them in the club very, very well. So I don't have to go through discovery. So when you ask me for feedback about your campaign, I'm not giving you like broad strokes feedback that I would give to anyone. I know your organization. We meet every single week. You have every bit of course content, templates, anything like that you would ever need to support you in this process. But more than that, we do the inner work to get the motivation, and the outer work, the strategy piece as well. So if you want to grab a spot with me, the next few days are open. Okay. So I'm going to keep going through the chat because I see more questions on that. Somebody said, how do I create a street team? Yes. So we teach that in the club, and there's templates and tools and everything that you need to create your street team. Next month's theme is going to be about the street team concept so that everyone can go ahead and I want everybody to have at least 10. And 10 is possible. 10 is possible for an organization with a 100K budget. 10 is possible with an organization of $1 million plus. What I mean on that is it's accessible to you at any price or at any fundraising level. This is not something where we pay influencers or anything like that to be partners. They're ambassadors. They want to use their voice for good. It's pretty impossible to hop on Instagram right now and not see that. You see so many people who are interior designers, makeup artists, anyone who has a voice lifting up their candidate of choice right now. If you see that right now in the chat, give me a 1, right? Lifting up, using their social platforms of hundreds of thousands of followers to lift up their candidate, right? To say, I care about this and you should too. And they will do that for your mission too, but you have to ask them, and you have to make it really easy, and you have to make it not feel like committee or board work. So that's the nuance there. Okay. Let me keep going. Okay, direct mail once a year, 1 end of year. Okay, so those of you with direct mail, please, like really momentum booster, like hit the jackpot on that, because the direct mail will really help you. So maybe you want to do an oversized postcard and you want to do a letter. Maybe you want to do something else like those last 2 weeks of December. I've written hundreds of direct mail pieces for my private practice. And it's like what worked even just 2 years ago, we're ideating on and we're iterating on. And it's really, really important, especially during an election year, because what do we get right now? If you're being inundated with direct mail postcards like I am, give me a 1 in the chat. Like there's so many, and they're getting bigger and wilder and all of that. So it does really work. And that's the other thing I want to say about an election year is it works. Is like, look at how much email they send. Text messages. I was getting text messages last night at midnight that was like, hey, Christina, so-and-so wants to hear from you. how are you going to vote, right? So many different ways they're trying to figure out as a voter and, get my attention: direct mail, text messages, email, social, influencers, like, right? They're going all in and they are unafraid to email you often. Okay. Yes. Teresa, send me an email. I can send you a replay if you need it. Okay. What other questions do I have? Let's see. All right, Nancy, I see that coming in. And yeah, just keep dropping them in as we go through this. So Nancy says, we need to switch donor platforms. This just made me think at some point, once we have it set up, we could launch a mini monthly giving campaign to help get people aware that we have switched our donation link. One, does that seem like a good idea? Two, should we do this as soon as possible? Or, okay, going into year end, great question. I'm actually going to go back here. Now is the time, and there's almost like the pre-game. So instead of tailgating, you're like shopping for your tailgating stuff. I don't know. Now is the time to make sure your fundraising tool is exactly the right one you want, is exactly frictionless, that Christina can donate from her couch to you without getting up and grabbing her credit card. It is there. Okay. So I would do that right now. If you have questions on which ones I like, which ones are great, you can send me a message after this. I also want to offer, there is no one right one, right? Think about how many different brands of jeans there are. Right now, we're all have different brands of jeans. Why? Because we have different preferences. There are some that are great for smaller and mid-size and larger size organizations. So I can point you to those, but I really want you to get a tool that is like, make sure it has Apple Pay, all the credit cards, Google Pay, Venmo, PayPal. Those are the big five. Okay. Should we wait to launch a mini monthly giving campaign or use it as kind of a post victory lap Giving Tuesday? I would need to know like why to go to bat to wait. So right now, we're end of summer here-ish. Why not run a mini campaign the next couple of weeks? Right? Why wait that many months to launch it? Now, if it's for monthly donors, we do want to think about like, do you have your tech set up for that? So to make sure that those pieces were ready to go. But we have a lot of people right now, my clients in the club, who are fundraising now and will also fundraise like they normally do on year end. But I'm like, let's get some revenue in now. Maybe we want to run a fundraiser to lapsed donors. Maybe we want to re-engage that group. Maybe we want to just start seeding what I call like VIP donors and identifying them. We have a multiplier tool for that in the club. Like how do we want to start priming people for what we want them to do? So I wouldn't necessarily think of monthly giving as a post, like, hey, if you didn't give on Giving Tuesday, why don't you become a monthly donor? I would think of it as its own solid standalone campaign. Or, hey, for Giving Tuesday, why not make it all about becoming a monthly donor? That would be another way to do it. Because monthly donors are amazing. We have a series on my podcast coming up about that. We're bringing on a lot of experts on monthly giving. And so it's just such a smart thing to put front and center because of the subscription economy.